Welcome to Office Hours. I'm David Meltzer with Bucky here. Welcome to Office Hours. It's More Good News Wednesday, and I'm blessed to have the two best co-hosts that I can find. That's Bobby Messmer, my main man over there, and of course, the gorgeous and intelligent Renee Marino. Thank you both for joining me.
Thanks for having us, Dave. I wanted you to call me gorgeous. Gee,
You are gorgeous. You are a hunky man.
The competition in this room is unparalleled. I'm telling you, you are a gorgeous man, David. Renee, good to see you.
You got to stay in the same consciousness, and that's why we brought our first guest here, because he's the Chief Consciousness Officer. Charlie Johnson's in the house, out of Utah.
Hey guys,
how are you doing, Charlie? Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate you having me on.
You're amazing. Let's talk about the position itself. We don't see Chief Conscious Officers all the time. I believe in a conscious continuum. I utilize it as a common denominator in how I perceive everything in context of time and relativity. This idea of a conscious continuum that exists. What exactly is the position, though, of a Chief Consciousness Officer?
It's a full-time position. It's something companies haven't had before. If you remember 30 or 40 years ago when technology took over and everyone knew we needed to go online, everyone knew we needed a website, no one knew how to code, so we started hiring CTOs. Consciousness is the center of humanity. It always has been. The difference right now is everyone's becoming aware of it, and they're going to want someone on staff who understands consciousness at a very high, very clear level. And this individual has a business background, understands the spiritual world, knows how to bridge them together. But most importantly, they're neutral. Since the beginning of humanity, we have been split to sides: Catholic, atheist, right, wrong, conscious, unconscious. We need someone who understands both sides, sees the full picture, gives everyone in the company at every level the full picture.
Charlie, I love that, Renee. I think I'm going to have a new position in the future. I thought he was reading my resume.
Right? I said, Charlie, when I read your bio, I was like, oh man, this is in perfect alignment with the three of us today.
Whoa. Uh-oh. Talk about the perfect consciousness. She went into another frequency and elevated. Bobby, we're going to have to put you on for the next question. We're going to bring Renee back on.
Yeah, no, it's all good. She just went into the stratosphere somewhere. So, yeah, so I guess I have so many questions in regards to this, right? Like, and so, when you talk, like, what exactly is the role of the conscious officer? Like, give the audience a clear explanation of that, so we have an understand. Because, like, I look at this and I'm like, what are we being conscious of? Like, what relationship? What are we doing within the organization that's making us conscious? And what do we need to be conscious of? So, give us that description first, if you don't mind.
So, let me jump at this in a different way. For the last 20 or 30 years, we've had the wellness programs. We've had a lot of coaches, a lot of consultants. We've had conscious leadership, conscious management, conscious capitalism, right?
Mm-hmm.
How's everything look? Right? I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying the coaches and consultants are wrong. They're not experts. They're not very intelligent. But it's kind of like the chicken and the pig. Like, they want to go to a restaurant. The chicken's like, hey, let's go in here. And the pig's like, I got to cut off some of my flesh if we go in there, and you just have to lay an egg. You can just take off and leave. Right? This position full-time. So it's not part of the wellness program. It takes everyone from here to here. And it's something that's full-time, works with every position in the company, works with every employee at the company, works with every level of the company, and becomes a secret weapon for the C-suite. So knowledge is structured in consciousness. Consciousness is, we're starting to understand, it's fundamental to our reality. So your strategy is built in consciousness. Your knowledge is built in consciousness. Your customer service, your sales, your marketing, your HR, how you hire, everything is built in consciousness. Now, there's conscious leadership, as you were saying, our senses, right? But consciousness to me is a net. Everything physical and non-physical on this planet. And this is something companies have never had. So everything we are doing, everything we've done is the same mind that creates a problem can't solve it. So basically, we're trying to fix all of these crumbling systems with the same individuals, the same experts, the same books, the same mind, the same everything that created the systems that are crumbling. We need to have someone on staff full time who can take everyone, give them the full picture, and take everyone from here with this very limited perception. And you can be a Harvard grad, 170 IQ, and still have a very limited perception, and expand. Give everyone better questions, better answers, better solutions. This is the way of the future. I don't know what else they could hire that could do what this position does.
Interesting. And this person is advising CEO, HR, like really kind of like within the organization, really digging in with all the leadership and helping them through this.
Everybody, because again, HR is here, marketing's here, sales is here, CEO is here, the VP, manufacturing, operations, everyone's here. Again, everyone's got the IQ, everyone's got the intelligence, everyone's got the degrees. All I'm asking is we have everything that we thought we needed. Burnout is through the roof, retention's through the roof. The way we hire is through the roof, the division between executives and employees. I just want to bring awareness to that because we just keep doing the same thing and expecting the same results. Not only are we not getting the same results, it's actually getting worse. Burnout, retention. Again, we've got 10,000 books on happiness. We've never been so unhappy. We have more people trying to work on burnout and retention rates, and neither of them have been any worse. So my question is, what am I missing?
To interrupt you though, a business is a collective consciousness. So
yes, it is.
Offer. Renee, you unabashedly canceled yourself. Welcome back. We appreciate you, but you were saying before I kicked you out of the studio.
Yes. I just wanted to keep things fresh here. It was like a fireworks for 4th of July, Charlie, I absolutely love what you do. And I couldn't agree with you more that we all need to be more conscious. I help people to create genuine connections through communication by being conscious. Step one, right? Having conscious connection, being really conscious in the way you're communicating. My question to you is, how do these companies and these organizations know that they need this, right? Because you and I know that so often individuals can go right to the systems, the tools, the processes as the problem. But because you're the expert, because just say the four of us, we're already in this space, we're aware of this need. We really get this, but sometimes others who are in the corporate space say they're not aware that they have this problem. So how do you make them aware that this is what they need in their organization?
Well, luckily, it's not up to us anymore. When humans are left to their own devices, you see what we do. Consciousness being fundamental to our reality, you guys can feel the shift happening on this planet. It is speeding up like never before. Humanity has never experienced anything like this before, and we lost her again. Oh my God.
That's okay. You can still answer the question.
Yeah. So consciousness is truly becoming the center of humanity, and it's speeding up. It's bringing clarity. All the mental health crisis, everything that's going on, everything the executives are starting to understand. Luckily, they are starting to really question this. So to her question, when she says they're not aware yet, they will be aware of it very, very soon. We're seeing how things are opening up very quickly. Even you guys having me on talking about this position, we've done 60 of these in the past 2 months. Many of the hosts have admitted they would not have had me. This is early January and February. So that shows you how quickly things are shifting.
Can the conscious officer be like the CEO of the company, and does that help him lead better if he creates and he becomes aware of this, a little bit more? Because again, I think to Dave's point, we're business leaders. We are conscious of everything that we're doing, and maybe we lack somewhere because we get the tunnel vision, right? Like we tend to focus on things and we get into the weeds sometimes. And so we sometimes have to take that step back to do a better job at what we're doing. So do you see this definitively as an individual role, or is this something that can be combined with somebody like myself who's a CEO and say, hey, I just need to take the steps to be a little bit more aware of what I'm doing in my surroundings and what I'm doing in business every day?
I think some companies will do both. I think there'll be a hybrid behind it, but I think just like a CTO, you're asking as a CEO, can you be the CTO as well? you probably don't understand technology that well, right? So, and I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't want a CFO to be like that. So I assume some will say, teach me what this consciousness is. Let me understand what this is. How can I bring this more into my existence? But what I see this position being is a staple in thousands of companies. I see it being taught in business schools, university programs, but I see it being a standalone position that companies, when they start to really understand what this position does, it'll be a secret weapon, and they'll wonder how they ever did without it.
Yeah, I do think as we get to the next guest, though, Charlie, that it'll start with interim consciousness officers, consultants, consciousness consultants. I think that as much as the awareness of how important consciousness is in the corporate setting for those companies that can afford to have a separate position, the learning curve beyond the elevation of awareness is one in which I see a step by step approach. And I would say I'm even motivated, to have within the context of my network, interim consciousness officers and consciousness consultants to help adapt and bridge the higher budgeted companies that I work with, because I think that's going to be the natural progression that we'll see. But it's great to see it. And I know that this is where we will be, hopefully sooner than later. It definitely has an ROI that you can articulate beyond anything else. CTO, COO, CMO, a CO would definitely build not only passion, engagement, but also profitability. Charlie, look forward to having you back, man. Congratulations on being at the forefront of our future.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Great job.
Thanks, Charlie.
That's awesome. I all for that.
Me too.
We'll go to the other side of it, from the chief consciousness officer to the chief investment officer, back to traditional business. Sebastian Page is here to talk about his new book that came out on tax day, The Psychology of Leadership, Timeless Principles to Improve Your Management of Individuals, Teams, and most importantly, yourself. Welcome to Office Hours, Sebastian Page.
Thank you, David. Super excited to be there with you.
All right, I'm asking a weird question, only because I've been prompted by Charlie Johnson. How much in the psychology of leadership is a sub-position or sub-disposition of a psychology of a leader? It seems to be coordinated and aligned in many different principles that are in your book. Do you see the psychology of a leader being a chief consciousness officer as well?
I do. I talk about positive psychology, which relates to engagement, relationships, meaning, accomplishment. In my mind, just listening to Charlie, this IRMA, engagement, relationship, meaning, accomplishment, this model speaks to what he seems to describe as the conscientiousness. So if I were to hire a chief conscientiousness officer, I would give them this mandate and make it relate to tangible business results.
Interesting. So I guess when I look at like leadership, right, and I'm sure you think the same thing, like people just have inherent ability to lead, some people, right? So, so with this, from the psychological standpoint, the principles, that you're trying to instill in how people should lead their teams with this, like what, like are do you find that somebody who is a good leader, like Dave, right? Like Dave's a great leader. Dave knows how to lead people. He knows how to really, get people to attract to him and listen to what he has to say. And it's definitely his charming personality. I mean, that goes everywhere, but so
And it's good looks.
like,
His good looks.
and it looks right. Yeah, he's sexy. I mean, what are you gonna do? Look at that. Look. He's not gonna be able to leave the room now. His head's too big. But like, but when are you finding that people just inherently have these leadership qualities better? Are you able to help them too? Because sometimes when you have it, you think you know everything. Talk to me about that piece of it, because I do see I love this, and I love this book. You need to send me a copy of it, by the way, because I would love to read this. But I'm wondering, like, for somebody like me, I'm always looking to learn. The smart people are. but do you run into issues where people who have these inherent qualities, are you still learning from them? Are they still learning from you? Like, talk to me about that. I know that's a loaded question, but I
No,
just
but
so much here.
it's hugely important. I wouldn't have a book if it were just, hey, you're born with it and you have these skills and you're going to be a great leader and that's your destiny. That's absolutely not how it works. Those skills are mostly, of course, people have some sort of basic inherited ability to inspire others, to be good listeners, but they're mostly learned. And here's the thing about the psychology aspect of this. We think of psychology as solving really important mental health issues like depression and anxiety. But more than half the research in the field of psychology for the last several decades has been on the positive side. What makes people thrive? What helps people achieve high performance? And David, I know you're in the world of sports, right? Ultra high performance. I gave a talk last week and I started with this anecdote of Felix Baumgartner. David, Bobby, Renee, does that name ring a bell? Most people forgot the name. He did something unbelievable in 2012. Does Felix Baumgartner ring a bell?
No.
Rings a bell. It rings a bell. I can't remember what.
So in 2012, Felix Baumgartner got in a small capsule tied to a giant helium balloon and went up and up and up 24 miles to the edge of space. And then he did something unbelievable. He stepped out of this capsule and skydived from space. He fell for 10 minutes, 4 of which were free fall. So he skydived from the edge of space. Most people don't know that Felix Baumgartner was coached by a sports psychologist every step of the way through his training. And the day of, he had his sports psychologist speaking in his ear. I love that example because it speaks to the power of positive psychology, not for high performance, for ultra high performance. And it's underrated how we can use this in business to lead teams. I'm a huge fan of sports psychology now, and I've done so much research, read hundreds of articles on it. And it's so applicable for business. And it's completely underrated in my mind. That's why I ended up writing the book.
Sebastian, I absolutely, I love the title of the book, The Psychology of Leadership, right? Because I mean, psychology plays such a role in being an effective leader. I'm curious to know what you think as far as being a leader who listens in a complete way. So I talk about, communication, and one of those steps of being an effective communicator is being a complete listener, listening to hear and not to respond. But what I've seen in the research I've done is that listening is in a really active and effective way is becoming a lost art because we're so distracted by so many different things, namely digital technology and all of these different outlets we have. So I want to know where you believe that listening plays a role in being an effective leader.
Renee, I love that question. It is the number one skill of high level leadership. And you know what? It took me years to realize this.
Yeah.
I went from being a high performer in the hyper competitive world of money management, climbing the ladder and thinking I'm smart, I'm a communicator, I should be talking. And as I climbed the ladder into increasing seniority, I realized that's not about me. Leading the team is about being a good listener. You know why? Because you end up making much better decision by being a good listener. And it's also an unbelievably important communication skills. So it's counterintuitive.
Yeah.
And in the psychology of leadership in the book, I have plenty of counterintuitive research where we think leaders should be one way. We think leaders should be talkers and great communicators and inspiring people, rah, rah, rah. But really, the most effective ones are the best listeners. We think leaders should be decisive. Really, the best one I've seen in business sometimes, not always, they exercise strategic patience They can wait until it's the right moment to act, which is a really tough skill. We think leaders should never quit, never give up, right? Never give up. Really, the most difficult decision to make in business is when to quit a project that's no longer profitable. You're Netflix, you're sending DVDs by mail. You have to make a pivot to streaming. And the ability to quit your DVD business, even though you have millions invested in the DVD mailing business, is an extraordinary leadership ability. So it's super counterintuitive, right? Never give up, communicate, inspire. You know, in a lot of cases, leadership is the opposite of what we think it is.
It's so interesting, and what a great book from a man who is the chief investment officer, head of global multi-asset at T. Rowe Price. That's over 500 billion. That's a half of a trillion in assets. That's no joke. And in order to get to where you want to be or better, find someone that's already there, a great leader, to find out what leadership is. For me, when people ask me to define that psychology of leadership, I talk about being an intelligent follower and having the expansive perspective, whether or not you call it quitting or not. When we expand, like Netflix and Mark Randolph, expanding the business, utilizing an inventory of what is inside of us to determine success outside of us, expanding the skills, the knowledge with the desire, that may be a great way, whether you're an athlete or an entrepreneur, an executive, or just a stay-at-home mom, to have the great psychology of leadership. Be an intelligent follower. Read the book written by the best. There's very few people who manage over $500 billion in assets. That sounds like someone I want to listen to and through and for. Sebastian Page, promise us you'll meet up in person. Promise us you'll come back on. We need more of your leadership guidance, the psychology of leadership. Go ahead. You can get it everywhere. A great guide to help you manage yourself, individuals and teams around you, learning from the best. Sebastian Page, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, Sebastian.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
You got it. $500 billion, Bobby. That makes you look poor with your $4 billion company. So, and there's also
listen. There's a big difference, Dave. You know the difference. There's managed assets and there's actual assets. Okay,
exactly.
So you know he's managing a piece of my stuff. So there you go.
Exactly. Mine too. But moreover, nonetheless, we are blessed to have someone that is managing that many assets, because it takes great leadership to manage all of our money and make sure that we're happy. Keeping people happy. These are very synergistic friends that we have today, because we have our friend, Dr. Reggie Thomas here. He's local to me. Peak Potential. Go to peakpotential.com. And we're going to talk about his two books that he's written in the last 3 years. The first one is definitely a book, having 3 daughters, that I should reread. It's called People Pains, Fixing the Drama in Your Business. I found that a lot of the timely advice in the office drama, dysfunctional teamwork, employee apathy, conflict, difficulties with personalities, and much, much more are very applicable to having 3 daughters that are within 4 years of one another. Just saying. We'll start with the people pains. I'll let the other people ask about the burnout pains. I talk about the emotional expense that people do not track. It's the number one quantitative evaluation that I give to build my businesses, whether it's internally or externally. I have a column in my Excel sheet that actually has a quantified emotional expense, which is directly involved with these people pains that you write about. Give me an idea of the quantitative impact of these people pains that most businesses ignore.
So, David, it's thank you for having me on. Good to be with you, man. Back in 2022, I wrote the book People Pains, and it really came out of my doctoral dissertation. I wrote on emotional intelligence. And the reason I dealt with emotional intelligence was I've been a leader. I was a leader for over 30 years, made a lot of leadership mistakes. And what I discovered is a lot of my leadership mistakes were not strategic or administrative. They were relational. There was just some things that I didn't handle very well. There were things that I didn't know how to manage. I could manage projects. I could manage, administrative tasks. But I did well with people that were on board and cooperative. Where I struggled were people that created conflict, or people who perhaps had a different personality. So this book, it's a compilation of how do you manage conflict as a leader? How do you manage different personalities? How do you manage that narcissistic employee in the company? And really, it's just how to employ emotional intelligence as a leader.
Don't hire them first. We do a better job in HR and hiring the people, right? Right, Dr. Thomas. No, wow. Again, I mean, this is normal in any business, right? Like, so I love this and what you're writing about. I guess my biggest thing is when you're dealing with these type of people. So what are a couple key points and a couple takeaways for people that are listening in, just to touch on in this? Like, how are you, like, what are a couple key points that people should be paying attention to here? Because look, everybody wants to pick up a book and read it. I want to pick up this book and read it. I need to learn more because I suck at all of this. I'll tell you that right now. But you got to figure out how to deal with these people, right? And like we have all these employees in this company, and I deal with, and everybody is good to a certain extent, but you get to this and you're like, I just don't feel like it. I just don't want to have to deal with this. And why do I got to deal with this person? Why can't they just shut up and do their job? Or why can't they just do what's asked of them? Or why do they got to create conflict with this person and pick a fight over there? So talk to me just real quick. Couple key points that you would have a recommendation for me, at least. I don't care about anybody else. Give me a couple key points.
Well, Bobby, I'm glad to hear you don't care about anybody else. Okay, which I'm kidding.
Yeah, trust me, he's kidding.
I am the narcissist in this relationship. I'm just telling you.
I don't believe it. Yeah. Well, so Bobby, a couple things for me. Number one, I learned where I became successful, I think, in relating to people, was I learned how to do what is called the pause. I used to react to those kind of people. I would respond without thinking, and I would say things that I didn't, that I regretted later, or it would sabotage me, really. And so what I learned to do was to step back and not to avoid those individuals, but to respond to them in the right way. It's emotional intelligence, really. Emotional intelligence is being aware of your own emotion. By nature, I've always been a little hot under the collar, and I've trained myself over the years to manage that. But earlier as a leader, man, I mean, I would blow up. I would blow up in meetings. I would blow up with those individuals. And really, it came down to the fact that I just didn't know how to incorporate the pause. You step back, you think about, what you're going to say, how you're going to respond. And by the way, emotional intelligence is not avoiding those kind of people. Emotional intelligence is not being quiet. It just means that you respond versus reacting. So I would take a pause, and then I'd go back and address that person. But here's another thing that might surprise you. What I often found is the most difficult people that I had to work with were people that had pains in their lives. So I learned to exercise empathy. I found out what was going in their life. And then after I found that out, I realized, that's why they respond the way they did. So using the pause and then employing empathy in your relationships with them, it really softens those people,
Yeah, and it's a good point, because number one, like, we all have the emotional intelligence, especially us men, and the women who are listening and will agree that of a 5-year-old, that's our emotional intelligence stream, right? That's where we are at. I can admit that. I'm happy to say that. I know, but the pause, I think, is key. And do you believe in that pause that comes also with maturity? Because I know when I started this business 25 years ago, I was young, and so I thought being a little hot-headed, being more proactive, being more aggressive was the way to get things done. I'm sure we've all been there. Dave, you've told me stories, you've been there before too, and it takes certain things to humble us in life. And I do realize that the more stories I hear from people, you know, like Dave, like myself, like yourself, sometimes it happens with maturity because you learn different approaches. Do you find that to be factual in what you're trying to teach people here?
Absolutely, absolutely, Bobby. My dad was a high-tempered person, and I saw him blow up many, many times to other people. Um, and he was that way in our family. I saw him do that with my mother. He did it with me. He did it with my two younger brothers. So, that was modeled. When I got into leadership, um, I worked under a leader one time that I greatly admired, and he was high tempered. And so my brain was conditioned to think that's what good leadership is. You're firm, you're harsh, it's my way or the highway. And without even reading leadership books, I just watched this guy and it worked for him, by the way. I mean, he was,
Because he was successful.
yeah, he was successful. He worked for me. And I thought, okay,
Right.
that's the way I'm to lead. Well, I got into, 5-10 years of leadership, and I'm going, this ain't working. Okay. This ain't working. And so I think with that maturation process, I do think it comes with maturity. It really does. Honestly, I was in my late 40s before I got it. I was in my late 40s, and the improvement didn't happen overnight, man. It was a gradual process. I'm better now than I've ever been. I'm 61, and I wish the way I am now, I wish I was that way at 25, 30, 35, but yeah, you're right, man. It comes with maturity and experience.
It's so funny because you run so many marathons, ultra marathons, even the Boston Marathon so many times, and I'm sure
Man, you've been stalking me. You know more about me than I know about myself.
I'm more interested than interesting these days, and I've learned that along the way as well. But one of the things I've learned, being 57 myself, you being over 60, a lot of people are just amazed at the energy that we have, and it comes from the knowledge that you write about in both of your books, People Pains and Burnout Pains. That what are we doing to interfere with that unbelievable infinite amount of energy that we're part of? And this idea of when our mind or our body or our soul is on fire, instead of throwing gas on it, just do what our mamas taught us way back when, which is stop, breathe, and drop, and then roll into a positive direction, a divine direction, and turn that detour into a divine one as well. It takes great leaders, as we have here on Office Hours today, to reach our peak potential. Our friend Renee Marino has joined us to say goodbye.
Guys, I'm hardwired in, so something's happening in the ether.
This is a strategy. It's
It
strategy
is.
on her part. Yeah.
I just have to tell you, I get to see the analytics, and every time Renee drops off, we lose half the audience. And she just came back, and it comes back up. So you're good for the ratings, Renee. I
Great.
appreciate that. And whether you got to ask enough questions, we'll get to the next week's show with you. You are always invited. Dr. Reggie Thomas, we're going to be at SoFi Stadium, not too far from you. We'll be at SiriusXM Studios in LA on the 15th. I want to invite you to share more of your message, more of your book. I'll have my team reach out to you.
Okay.
You are definitely a great member of our community. Thank you so much for sharing your leadership philosophies and potential, seeking peak potential fame. We appreciate you so much. I'll see you hopefully on July 15th.
All right. Send me a reminder of that. Okay. All right.
We will. Team will reach out. Thank you, Dr. Reggie Thomas. Check out both his book, People Pains and Burnout Pains. It's kind of like mommy issues. Everybody that's in business has people pains and burnout pains. You can dissolve, dissipate, and even make them disappear by following the leaders such as Dr. Reggie Thomas. We are blessed to be here with two extraordinary friends of mine, co-host Renee Marino, the on and off superstar of Office Hours, and Steady Eddie, Bobby Mesmer, my unbelievable, grounded, down-to-earth, super entrepreneur. I love having you both on here. Please promise me I'll see you next week.
You got it.
Always.
All right,
Good seeing you, hon. See you, Dave.
Happy Fourth.
Yeah.
You guys are great.
Happy
All
4th,
right,
everybody.
we got to rock and roll here because my wife is calling on the other line. That means we're going to go through real quickly where to meet up with me. San Diego tomorrow, meetups, holding courts, interviews, speeches. San Antonio for the Aspire Tour with Renee Marino and I, and all those famous people as well. Holding court, diamond lunch, VIP dinner, conversations, interviews, meetups, Vegas, SiriusXM, and the unbelievable Marshall Faulk, Hall of Fame running back, and I are having an after party there. Then Nashville with Buggy O'Neill. They forgot Atlanta for the MLB All-Star Game. Then back to LA on the 15th for SiriusXM Content Mastermind, holding court, meetups, interviews, speeches, VIP dinners, lunches, etc. David@dmeltzer.com. Remember, most importantly, be more interested than interesting. Be kind to your future self and do good deeds. God bless everyone. Have a good 4th.